on for Mike McCarthy. He had to make sure everyone knew that wasn't coming from him. Right. He needs no more headlines on this eve of Halloween. Good morning. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. We're festive. That's music playing, right? I think I hear that in my ear, although I've been hearing music in my ear for 3 years now. We got a great show for you coming up today. 2 jam-packed hours getting you ready for a fantastic weekend of football. And let us start with the marquee matchup of the weekend. The 5-1 Ravens hosting the 6-0 Steelers. Surprisingly, the first head-to-head matchup between Big Ben and Lamar Jackson. What's on the line? Oh, I don't know. How about first place in a crowded AFC North? Brandon Marshall, my friend, we hand the reins over to you. Take us through the keys to the game. How do the Ravens take down the league's last undefeated team?
So are you guys messing with me? We're back with the Jets jersey. What happened to the Bears jersey? Put the Dolphins jersey. What are you guys doing right now?
We've got jersey integrity,
Brandon. Jets jersey. You demanded
did I say Jets jersey,
I got a lot to say.
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, you did.
All right, look, listen. So you guys know that I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers to make it to the Super Bowl and lose to the Seattle Seahawks. So this is a big game for our boys. But for the Baltimore Ravens to get a win, here are the keys to their success, starting with Lamar Jackson in this offense. Lamar Jackson has to be 75% completing his passes with 0 interceptions. Last year, Nick, 3 interceptions. He had accuracy issues, and he struggled reading coverage. So it starts with Lamar Jackson. Number 2, what these wide receivers have to do, they have to get yak. Do you know what yak is? I'm sure you do. Yards after the catch. I need 100 yards after the catch because this defense do a phenomenal job of eliminating the big play. So we need to see slants and bubbles going for 15 yards, 20 yards, hell, taking it the distance. That's the way you're going to win this game. Because look what they did last week versus the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry stopping the run. This is what you do well. They're going to take that out. So you guys, if you want to win this game, you have to be efficient and you have to be really good in the passing game with yards after the catch. And the last thing, going to the defensive side, these guys thrive in chaos. They throw so many complex blitzes and disguises at you. So what you have to do is confuse Big Ben and not yourself, because the way they play defense sometimes backfire on them and they give up the big play. And Big Ben will expose you if you give him the opportunity. So this week, super simple. Those 3 things: Lamar Jackson, 75% throwing in the air, 0 interceptions, 100 yards yak, and confuse Big Ben and not yourself.
It's great. All right, so I find all this really interesting, Brandon, and I think the Lamar stuff is probably the biggest key to this game, because an underrated storyline this season is, quite simply, Lamar's regressed from last year, particularly throwing outside the numbers where he's had no success whatsoever. But what I find most interesting about your keys is you usually approach the keys from a what the underdog must do to upset the favored team perspective. I don't think the Ravens are the underdog in this game. And not only are they not the Vegas underdog, I don't think they, even on a neutral field, necessarily would be the underdog. Baltimore has flown under the radar entirely this season. It's as if people watched them on national television get beat up by the Chiefs and they just wrote them off. The problem is, aside from that Chiefs game, not only have they won every game, aside from that Chiefs game, they have had 17-point fourth-quarter leads in every game. Now, Philly came back in garbage time. It wasn't quite garbage time. Philly came back to make it a game ostensibly late. But Baltimore has annihilated its competition. Its defense, I believe, is better than last year. Its running game is nearly as good as last year. So why are they not being discussed as much? The answer, I think, is because Lamar's yards per game are down. His yards per attempt are down. His completion percentage is down. His passer rating is down. And he isn't having the wow plays through the air that he had last season to go along with the consistent wow plays with his legs and wilds. That, to me, is going to be potentially the deciding factor of this game. Nobody can run on Pittsburgh. Derrick Henry couldn't run on Pittsburgh. No. Nobody can run on Pittsburgh. And Mark Ingram's banged up a bit. Is Lamar going to be able to take advantage of the fact they don't have Devin Bush out there in the middle calling signals for him and beat a team through the air, which honestly he hasn't done or hasn't had to do since week 1 this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are underrating or properly rating, I would argue, the Ravens because where's the big win? Where's the big win that I'm pointing to that I'm like, the Ravens, they're so good. They had the chance against the Chiefs and they blew it. And we all watched that big Eagles come back. So I'm not impressed with a win over Washington or Cincinnati or Texans who end up firing their coach. So I'm not a believer in the Ravens.
Browns win's
Brandon,
pretty good.
The question for you, the what win?
No, it's average.
The Browns win, week 1. That's a pretty, I mean, they annihilated a team that's 5-1 since. But I think Wilds. No, Wilds. I'm not trying to undercut you. I think what the problem there is, it happened before you knew the Browns were a good team. I think it was week 1, you didn't know what the Browns were going to be. Beating the Browns 38-6 in week 1, it feels different.
No, Wilds, I'm with you. Wilds, I'm with you. Yeah, what win, Browns? Are you seriously?
Yeah.
So what's your question?
We got a lot more to go on this game. Go ahead.
No, go, Jenna.
All right, I'm going to take it. We got a lot more to discuss on this game right here. I'm going to take it from you now, Brent. Okay. All right, awkward. Here we go. Julio Jones, big game last night. I want to get to this before we break. He helped the Falcons beat Carolina. 7 catches, 137 yards from him. And to boot, this little gem of a quote. Listen up.
You think you're still the best wide receiver in the National Football League?
Absolutely, I think I'm the best. I mean, no doubt about it. Just the way I go out, and handle my business, and, week in and week out. I was injured early on in the season, but, I mean, you'll see, just keep watching.
Julio Jones clearly still working on his confidence. Brandon, you in or out on Julio being the best wide receiver in the NFL?
Come on, don't put me in this spot. Hey, I got to do life with these wide receivers. We got a little community going. Don't put me in this spot, Jenna. Look, last night when I turned on the game, first quarter, opening up, they went to Julio twice, back-to-back. And I was like, wow, this dude is still amazing. He's still getting it done at a high level. That deep out cut, the way he sunk his hits at the top of the route, I said, wow, this dude is still phenomenal. But right now, Julio, I'm out on this one, buddy. I love you. I think you're a dog, but your team isn't winning at the rate you guys should be. So I got to go with DeAndre Hopkins and DK Metcalf. 1A, 1B. Nick, don't ask me who's A and don't ask me who's B.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Somebody send this to Julio. Brandon Marshall says he's not even top 2.
As good as Julio is for the Falcons, still just win number 2 on the year. Cam Newton's Patriots also only 2 wins. Wait till you hear what Cam had to say about how important a win on Sunday is for New England. Still to come. First things first. The Patriots heading to Buffalo on Sunday. It was a nice catch by Des Bryant. Can't believe I'm saying this, but a loss and the Patriots, winners of basically everything the last 20 years, would fall to 2-5. Pats need a big game out of Cam Newton. He's got 0 touchdowns and 5 picks in his last 2 starts. And now he's going to be without Hall of Famer Julian Edelman, sidelined after having a knee procedure. So here's Cam Newton on what's on the line on Sunday.
Losing is not acceptable in this locker room, in this county, in this state, in this area, in this region. So Cameron Newton, you need to pick your expletive up. That's what I've learned.
All right, Brandon. I got to ask, is Cam Newton playing for his job on Sunday?
Well, you heard him. Yes, absolutely, especially when you look at last week being benched. Now, the alternative is what? It's not great. But I just think that the Patriots are in a position where if they lose this game, they could blow this thing up. They don't do anything well. He also had some interesting quotes yesterday where he talked about this not being on Josh McDaniels, this not being on Jad Fish. Yesterday I talked about, man, there's something sloppy about this team. Protection. You never see free runners running at the quarterback. We haven't seen that in 15 years. And Cam yesterday talked about, this is on me. I got to start with first IDing who the mic is. You always see the quarterbacks, the Peyton Mannings, the Tom Brady's of the world, even Cam, before they even hike the ball. 55's the mic, 55's the mic. I don't know if he's doing that correctly right now, going off of what I'm seeing on film and also from his comments. You're seeing these free runners. You never see that. Before you can drop back and make a good throw and before we can even discuss the picks or touchdowns, we got to first make sure our guys are set first. Make sure he's +2. Make sure the motion is coming. Make sure the protection is set. And then you get into playing the game. But there's too much thinking going on. And this highlights, Nick, why, guys like Tom Brady going to Tampa and doing what he's doing right now is so special. Because that process takes a while. I talked to Mike Vick, and Vick said it takes a year before you can master an offense. So you're seeing Cam Newton being in his head. And before we can even discuss can he get back on track, he first has to get this offense down, Nick.
Well, so a few things. First of all, Cam's press conferences are usually great, but he gave every geographical designation there, and he didn't say Commonwealth, and he plays Massachusetts as Commonwealth. So A, bad job by Cam there geographically. B, this is a fork in the road moment for the Patriots, but not for Cam. Cam's going to be the starter next week against the Jets no matter what. You know why? Because what are the other options? There aren't any. It's Brian Hoyer or it's Stidham. The last time those two guys were prominently involved in a game, Kevin Wildes petitioned the NFL for that game not to count. For a loss for his team or a win for my team, the quarterback play was so bad. He's basically called that game a win because they only lost by 16, given how bad the quarterback play was. Cam is going to be the quarterback for this team until they are mathematically eliminated. But Wildes, I have good news for Cam Newton, and I have good news for the Patriots. And the good news is one name, it is 2 words. That good news is Josh Allen. Because that's who you've got this weekend, and that's a great way to get back on track. Josh Allen, everyone's trendy MVP pick. I'm not naming names, Brandon Marshall, through a first month of the season. Since then, he's got 4 touchdowns. His team has 4 total touchdowns. He has 3 interceptions, and he looks a hell of a lot like he did in Wyoming when he couldn't even be first or second team all-conference. And so the Bills are struggling. The Patriots know the Bills are the team they have to get through in this division this year, and they beat them twice last year in very close, hard-fought games. And the Patriots also know they have the Jets coming up next. Meanwhile, the Bills have the Seahawks coming up next. So in my mind, there's a great opportunity for the Patriots to kind of erase how bad the last month has been with a good game against Buffalo. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see this week in Wildes. I think the Patriots win.
Yeah, I'll give you one name, 2 words. Mother Nature is going to be a brutal day in Buffalo. Super rainy with like 45 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. So here's why I think that's good. Cam is in there, like you said, just thinking too much, looking around too much. I just want him to react. And if we don't have these huge plays because Mother Nature is blowing the ball all over the place, boom, let's just hand the ball off to Rex Burkhead, James White. Let's just get some yardage. No one's talking about it, Brandon. You said we don't do anything well. It's because really we have bad PR. Nothing. We're the 4th best rushing team in the league. We run more per game than the Titans, but it's just we haven't done it recently. It went from 250, 185, 117, then 94. And that's what I'm saying. I know, but we still run the ball. We just kind of got away from it. So now that it's going to be pouring rain, let's just hand the ball off. Just do simple stuff. And this is what we need to get Cam back on track. That's a good point. I'm glad we're not in a dome and Cam is supposed to sling it all around. I think let's just restart slow and just hand the ball off. Let's get some yards to get out of Buffalo with a win, Brandon.
And that's the biggest, and yes, I mean, that's a valid point because their weakness and their greatest opportunity this week is against that defensive line. That defensive line is banged up. They got guys sitting on the bench, healthy scratches. This is the biggest opportunity. If they can get back to the run, it could possibly open back up that play action pass that they did so well week 1, week 2 of this season.
All right, well, earlier this week, remember we discussed the possibility of the Patriots trading Defensive Player of the Year, Stephon Gilmore. Now there's a report that says New England is actually open to trade talks on almost anyone before Tuesday's deadline. So, Brandon, should the Patriots just, I mean, for lack of a better term, clean house if they lose to the Bills Sunday and fall to 2-5?
Yeah, absolutely. They don't do anything well. And the standard there in New England, you heard Cam talk about it, it's to win. And it's not just to win just regular season games. The standard is to win Super Bowls. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with this team. You have no chance. So the best thing that you can do right now is take advantage of this opportunity to rebuild. Go ahead, trade everybody, trade the house, even Hall of Famer Julian Edelman, so you can come back next year and have a better shot at it.
And build around Cam?
I don't know if Edelman right now would even fetch a conditional 7th rounder. So I don't know how much that helps you rebuild the house. But listen, the Patriots are going to win Sunday. They're going to be a game and a half out of first, and so they're not going to trade anybody. If I'm wrong and they lose, then I do think Stephon Gilmore is a guy you would shop. But Jenna, I don't. This report rings a little hollow to me because I think the Patriots are always listening to any offer because Belichick is very good about value and good about saying if you want to overpay for something I have, I'll let you do it. So I think that you could have run this report at any trade deadline the last 20 years. He's always listening. Doesn't mean he's acting.
All right, let's take a turn. Talk some Cleveland Browns now. Can Baker Mayfield get Cleveland a win without Odell? We'll break it down next. First things first, I know the answer, but you'll know it soon. Tomorrow starts Saturday strong with the big noon Saturday game of the week. You got Jim Harbaugh and the 13th ranked Wolverines facing off with the Spartans. It's one of the wildest Big Ten rivalries, and it all starts with big noon kickoff at 10 Eastern tomorrow on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, gentlemen, time for drawing a blank. Let's start in Cleveland. Baker and the Browns
this segment.
hosting the Raiders Sunday on Fox. First game for Baker with no OBJ, a win, and they can gain some ground on the Steelers and Ravens. But Brandon, the player you're most excited to watch in Week 8 is blank.
Oh, yeah, Jen, I love this block. I have to go with Tua. I think there's something special about seeing a rookie quarterback's first game. And then also yesterday we talked about it. This is going to be baptism by fire. Now, what's that guy's name again, Nick and Wiles? Is it Sue? Oh, no, it's Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald will get back on track with 3 sacks this week because Tua is going to have to learn the hard way and understanding how to protect himself and point out the mic and set the protection.
It's a great answer. I'm super excited to watch Tua as well. I'm going with a different quarterback. I'm going with Lamar. The Ravens are really, really good. Lamar has not been really, really good throwing the football. And I would argue that in the calendar year of 2020, Lamar has only played 2 meaningful football games. The playoff game they lost and the Chiefs game they lost. This is his 3rd meaningful football game of this calendar year. I don't think he's going to go 0-3, and I think it's concerning if he goes 0-3. And so I'm excited to watch Lamar up against this dominant Steelers defense, Wilds.
Nick, I'm going with Chad Henne. You said it as a joke that the Chiefs were going to play Chad Henne. I actually think it's a smart decision if they get out to a monster lead. I don't know, what's the line now? We at 19.5 still?
20.
So I think Patrick Mahomes goes in there like a preseason game. 20?
20.
All right, so he goes in there like a preseason game, play the first half, and then sit down. So Chad Henne, expect some big things. I think I love it. The line, though.
That's the best
Andy
answer.
Reid's a gentleman. He's not going to let the Chiefs jump out to that huge of a lead. But let us talk about those Chiefs. Mahomes and company, big favorite Sunday in their matchup with the winless Jets. I just mentioned it. Chiefs favored by 20. Not sure an upset is even a possibility with that kind of point spread. But Brandon, The team that should be on upset alert in Week 8 is blank.
Bills, they have the Patriots and Wilds. When's the last time you heard that the Patriots were underdogs and we're picking another team to be on upset alert? This year, 2020, can't get any wilder, but I got to go with the Bills here. I still believe in them. To me, they have everything they need to make a run at it. I know Nick is going to crush me for this, but I have to say Bills against the Patriots.
Wait. I want to understand. Are you saying you think the Bills will get upset by the Patriots or the Bills will beat the Patriots? I want to make sure I understand.
No, yes, no. So I think this, look, they can't win. They can't afford to lose 3 in a row. I still believe in this Bills team. The Patriots, who I don't believe in, can come in and win this game. They do have a nice matchup because of that running game that Wiles talked about earlier and also that defensive line who's non-existent. So they have a chance.
Okay, all right. I'm going with, I think the Patriots are going to beat the Bills, but I'm going with, I think Seattle could get upset this weekend by San Francisco. There's a few factors here that concern me, but most notably is the discrepancy in how much football these two teams had to play last week. San Francisco had an early kick against the Patriots that they could really start resting guys and take their foot off the gas after 3 quarters. The Seahawks, on the other hand, played the night game, a 5th full quarter in overtime against Arizona. I think all of that, plus the line strikes me as a little funny. Seattle only 3-point favorites. Feels like Vegas is begging you to bet on them. I think the Niners upset the Seahawks this week.
I'm going with Mother Nature in Buffalo. Huge upset. Granted, it's going to be super windy. It's going to be super rainy. But about 3:30, when the Patriots win the game, watch out. Rays of sunshine emanating out of Foxborough, enlightening and making everyone happy on this dark October day. It'll actually be November.
All right, well, I'm going to take your forecast and raise you one. The Patriots have lost 3 in a row, Wilds, first time since 2002. We talked about a rainy and windy setting for this game against the Bills. Patriots desperately need a win. Bills, you could say, desperately need a win. But, Brandon, the team that most needs a win in Week 8 is blank.
Seahawks. But let's go back to the last question. Nick, I love how you take everything into consideration when you're making your picks. You're looking at, let me look at the scheme. Let me look at the stats. You know everything about these teams. But then you also include Vegas. Oh, yeah. Vegas have them at 3-point underdogs or dogs.
Yeah, it's a little tricky.
You're like, so there must be something there.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
So Vegas knows a lot. They have a lot of Bill Belichick just sitting in Vegas in the Wynn Hotel, MGM, helping people put together these spreads. I love it. So look,
they've reached out to me, but I won't leave the show. I like you guys too much. Sorry, go ahead.
I love it. No. So the Seattle Seahawks, man, they cannot afford to lose 2 in a row. They got to get their mojo back. Obviously, the defense isn't there yet. I think they're 2 or 3 weeks away from being a decent defense with the guys that's coming in and getting them up to speed and getting them back healthy. Russell Wilson won't throw another 3 picks in a game. So the Seattle Seahawks, with this amazing opportunity that they have this year to be a contender, to win a Super Bowl, they got to get back on track right now.
Seattle's a great answer, Brandon, because if they win, they're in first in the conference. If they lose, depending on how the rest of the week shakes out, they could be 8th in the conference or on the outside looking in for the playoffs, amazingly, because it's so bunched up in the NFC. But I'm going with a different team. I think it's the New Orleans Saints. This should be the first game they have Michael Thomas since Week 1. Not coincidentally, Week 1 was the only time this year they've looked great. Since Michael Thomas last played, the story of the NFL has seemingly been the surge of the Tampa Bay Bucks, who play in the Saints division. So I think the Saints, just to keep pace with the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers, desperately need a win, especially if they're going to have Michael Thomas back on the field finally for the first time since September 11th, 12th, whatever the day that Week 1 game was. So I think New Orleans, because all of a sudden Tampa looks like a potential 11-12 win team, Wilds.
I'm going to go with the Bucs here, not necessarily for standings reasons, but for MVP reasons. This is a great opportunity on Monday night for Brady to just tee off on the Giants, who have several offensive linemen in quarantine. This is going to be a huge game for Brady. He's going to light up the scoreboard, and come Tuesday, everyone's going to be like, wow. I think Tom Brady's getting closer and closer to that MVP talk, maybe eventually taking over Russell Wilson.
Brady's never had a bad game against the Giants. I like it.
Okay.
Finish up. Let's finish up with Brandon Seahawks now. Russell Wilson in Seattle hosting the division rival Niners Sunday. It's on Fox. Russ, again, coming off that brutal 3-pick game against the Cardinals. Still the MVP favorite, though, as of right now, until, of course, as Wilds mentioned, Tuesday morning. So, Brandon, the player with the most to prove in Week 8 is blank.
This is a good one. For the past few weeks, my guy, Nick, has been texting me, what's going on with Michael Thomas? Is this a story? I think there's something here, Brandon. Why isn't he practicing? He goes out to practice, then he goes back into the locker room. Something fishy is happening. So I'm going with Michael Thomas. Nick Wright called it a couple weeks ago. We got to see this guy back into football. He's too big of a piece for this team. And Michael Thomas, let's go, baby. Let's get back healthy. Let's get back right and help your team win ball games.
100%. It's very curious, the situation there, and we'll see if it gets silenced a bit if he has a big game this weekend against that great Bears defense. But I'm going to go with Carson Wentz. Sunday Night Football is Cowboys-Eagles, and I don't know if anybody cares about the game. It's amazing. If I would have laid 5,000 to 1 against that the day before a Sunday Night Football Eagles-Cowboys game, we weren't going to do 6 blocks on it. Instead, it's getting mentioned here and not much else because both teams have been so bad. The Cowboys, statistically, are the worst team in the NFL, not named the Jets. Carson Wentz, statistically, has been a bottom 4 quarterback this year. Neither of those things would have been what you expected going into the season. And there's excuses for both. The Cowboys lost Dak. They might have hired the wrong D coordinator. Eagles' entire offensive line and receiving core is banged up. Carson needs to have a good game. If the Eagles can't win this division this year, then those very quiet rumblings about why did they draft Jalen Hurts start to become a little louder. So I think Carson Wentz on national television is under massive pressure when he's up against DiNucci, most likely for the Cowboys, to have a big game, Wilds.
Vikings-Packers coming up. I want to show you the most interesting thing I saw on the internet yesterday. It's from Ben Baldwin, and it's an internet graphic. It's not made for TV, so you got to get very close to your television or follow Ben Baldwin on Twitter. This is second and long pass rate. Look, it's the play you need to make. Do not run the ball on second and long. And look how good the Seahawks are doing. And then if you go way down, look at the Vikings. It's a terrible play. So I think someone in the Vikings organization is like, Coach Zimmer, did you see this? We can't be dead last. So if there's a second and long play, they have to throw it. Mike Zimmer, courtesy of this graphic, you have to throw it. You got the most approved. Do not run it. You're going to be exposed via this graphic and Ben Baldwin.
Wild spends an enormous amount of time scouring the internet. Big showdown in Baltimore Sunday. Big Ben versus athletic Lamar. We'll break it all down next. First things first. Yes, he is.
From the awesome WWE Thunderdome, Roman Reigns, his cousin Jey Uso, and the consequences from their punishing Hell in a Cell match. It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, right here on Fox.
Back here, first things first, and back to the big AFC North showdown on Sunday. Big Ben and those undefeated Steelers. They're in Baltimore to face Lamar and those 5-1 Ravens. First meeting between the two teams this season. First meeting between the two quarterbacks ever, and the first game is a Raven for Yannick Ngakoue after getting traded to Baltimore. Michael Vick joining us now. Okay, Mike, first time I'm asking this question all morning. Who wins the game on Sunday, Steelers or Ravens?
First off, I say, Jenna, it's hard to believe that this is Lamar and Ben's first time going head-to-head after all these years. That's a surprising stat within itself. But you know, and in terms of the matchup, I got to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're flying high right now, 6-0. When you're 6-0, you almost feel like you can't do any wrong. I can't say I've ever been 6-0 in my life, but I've been 4-0, and I know what it feels like, or what it could feel like to be 6-0. So I got to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, one thing we don't say too much about the Baltimore Ravens, like I got a chance to watch them up close this past season. You know, their pass defense, sometimes they struggle. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the dynamic group of receivers that they have, I think gives them the slight advantage. And watching them, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs, I've seen them struggle in that area. And, you know, if you look at, you know, the overall big picture, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers are similar to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I've seen the Baltimore Ravens struggle in pass defense. We know what the offense is going to do for the Baltimore Ravens, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are great at stopping the run, and I think that's what they're hanging their hat on. So I think the ultimate edge goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, one, because they're playing with a lot of confidence. They're 6-0 right now, and they have an aerial assault that's just hard to stop.
Mike, I started 2009. We started off 6-0. We beat the Patriots. We beat the Tony Romo-led Cowboys. Bro, we thought we were unstoppable. But then we only won 2 out of the last 10. That was Josh McDaniels' rookie year as head coach. It all went bad. We imploded. The next year I was shipped to Miami. It was all bad.
Why?
But look, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why? So many different reasons. That's a whole nother show. We're not going to get into that right now. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers by 6. I'm looking at what they do well. These teams, what do they do well? The Baltimore Ravens, they get it done by running the ball. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who Nick has this front seven as the best in football. Nick absolutely loved this defense. Yep. What they do, they eliminate the run. Look what they did to the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry. For that reason, I truly believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers front seven is better than the Baltimore Ravens run game. They win this game by 6. It's going to be a great game. Old NFC East showdown. Did I say NFC? AFC. Excuse me.
AFC North.
So this is going to be AFC North. Excuse me. This is the old school. This is what we were watching 20, 25 years ago. So enjoy it. Get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a showdown.
All right. So I could not be more excited for the game, and I love when the biggest game of the weekend is 1 p.m. A 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. You don't have to wait till the big 4:30 game on Fox or Sunday Night Football. Let's get it started immediately. 6 other games on, but we're focused on this one. Luckily for me, my Chiefs have a bye week called the Jets, so I don't even have to watch them at all. Focus on this game. I think on a neutral field, in neutral circumstances, the Steelers might be better. These teams are very similar. They both have, by DVOA, top 5 defense, top 3 special teams, and slightly above average offenses. They both have, in my opinion, 2 of the 5 best coaches in football. They are very similar. But I believe Baltimore is going to win. And I believe Baltimore is going to win for factors that are somewhat out of both teams' control. Baltimore is coming off a bye. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, not only played last week, Pittsburgh played a brutal game against Tennessee where they held on for dear life against a physical offense and football team as a whole. And while they held Derrick Henry in check, that hurts to do. 20 carries of Derrick Henry, even though they held him to only 75 yards, that Steelers defense is, I imagine, feeling that throughout the week. Additionally, while the Ravens just added Yannick Ngakoue, the Steelers are still figuring out how to deal with the loss of Devin Bush. So maybe the next meeting between the 2 teams goes differently, but this weekend, Wilds, because one team is rested, one team is fresher, one team is healthier, and one team in Baltimore, if we're being honest, needs it more right now. I like the Ravens to win this football game and tie up the AFC North.
Okay, I like the Steelers. You can't run the ball on the Steelers, and Lamar Jackson's not going to be able to throw the ball on the Steelers. So, seems like it's a done deal. It's pretty simple. But Mike, I have a wild card theory. The Steelers lead the NFL with 26 sacks. is there a chance that they're too good for their own good? That Lamar's like, all right, I'm 31st in the league in yards per game passing. I'm right there around Sam Darnold territory, and we know we can't run the ball. When they blitz me, I'm gone. I'm just going to take off, and that will be the wild card factor that they won't. They'll have to. Then the whole thing falls apart. Then it's like, well, when we blitz him, he's taken off. Like have you ever played a game where you knew the blitz was coming and the defense was so good? You're like, you know what? I'm gonna win it on my own.
The one thing that a mobile quarterback despises is the blitz. The blitz is something that you're supposed to defeat in the pass game. They bring two from a side, one extra. You should be hitting your hot route or, whatever is designed in the offense, whatever that route is for that quarterback to get the ball out of his hands. I struggle more when I got blitz more, and I think the greater defensive coordinators over time have looked back, at games played versus mobile quarterbacks and saying that the blitz hurt. I talked to Andy Reid, numerous times to figure out how teams are going to try to play me. And the only thing he talked about was they're going to blitz you, they're going to blitz you, they're going to blitz you. So it's opposite of what you're thinking right now. When you get blitzed as a mobile quarterback and you thinking run, really you should be thinking pass. So it doesn't work. It stymies the offense. You have to get the ball out, and the run game becomes obsolete.
There you go.
So,
That's
Mike,
smarter.
what does Lamar do? Because last year he threw 3 picks against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know they blitz more than anybody in the NFL, where they're right behind the Baltimore Ravens and right there with the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. They're zone blitzing defense. So what does Lamar Jackson do differently this year?
He got to be patient. He got to stay within the framework of the offense, and he has to be one step ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like you say, the zone blitz in Pittsburgh is not just a typical zone blitz. It's a complicated zone blitz. So he has to really pay attention to detail, take it one play at a time, and understand what he's doing within the basis of the offense to get the ball out and make sure the offense is moving down the field successfully.
Lamar's got his work cut out for him on Sunday. All right, time now for drawing a blank. Julio Jones' big game last night helped the Falcons get that big divisional win in Carolina. 7 catches, 137 yards, and this quote from Julio. Take a listen.
You think you're still the best wide receiver in the National Football League?
Absolutely, I think I'm the best. I mean, no doubt about it. Just the way I go out, and handle my business and, week in and week out. I was injured early on in the season, but, I mean, you'll see, just keep watching.
All right, Michael Vick, let me ask you, throwing to Julio Jones would have been blank.
Epic. I'm talking about epic. And if I have a guy like Julio Jones, and I would still have needed Roddy White, it's a Super Bowl ring for myself and my teammates. Man, this guy's one of the best in the game, man, and he knows it. He knows he's one of the best. He knows when he's healthy. He knows when he's not. He knows when he's feeling well, and when he can go out and give you top performances like last night.
They put a graphic up, shout out to Fox Graphics Department last night, that shocked me. Julio's only like 500 yards behind Jerry Rice for most yards ever in his first 10 years of his career, which means if he's healthy throughout the end of the season, he will break that record. That is, it seems like all NFL receiver records, Brandon, are Jerry Rice category and then everyone else fighting for second place.
Correct.
It's amazing.
Yes.
He might take that from Jerry. It is remarkable, Wilds.
Yeah, you're right. Because when you look at playoff yardage totals, it's Jerry Rice and then Hall of Famer Julian Edelman. So it's a great point now.
I knew it. You set him up wide, Nick. Why?
You teed him up, Nick. That's on you.
I didn't know he put his hand up. I thought he was going to say something
Cam Newton was asked how important Sunday's game is against Buffalo, right? How much the Patriots need to win. Well, wait till you hear how he answered the question. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Coming back after this.
Good teamwork, Nick. Thank you.
Tomorrow, start your Saturday strong. It's the big noon Saturday game of the week. Jim Harbaugh, those 13th ranked Wolverines facing off with the Spartans. Little Big Ten rivalry there. It all starts with big noon kickoff, 10 Eastern, and then Michigan State. Michigan Check everything out on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Back here talking Seattle Seahawks now. Big divisional. Wow. That was quite a transition. Big divisional showdown out west Sunday afternoon as they get set to host the reigning NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. Another way to put that using less words would be Seahawks and Niners. On Fox, Russ coming off his 3-pick game in the team's first loss on Sunday, and Mike Vick is back with us to discuss all of it. Mike, do Russ and the Seahawks need to win this game to prove they are a Super Bowl caliber team?
Yeah, I think it's a must-win situation, and it's a saying that we all can relate to, and I know Brandon can, that you win the games that you're supposed to win, and this is a game that the Seattle Seahawks are supposed to win. They need to win to put themselves back into the Super Bowl talks and conversation. The one thing I know is that Russell won't throw 3 picks this week. He'll probably be flawless and more, in control, of this week's game. Because after you throw 3 interceptions, you come back the next week, you watch film, you digest what happened, and you want nothing more but to show that that was a fluke and to make up for the things that, that were on your plate that you couldn't capitalize on. So I feel like, this team is in a position where, we're looking at them and saying, they have, the Super Bowl aspirations. They have the team in place. Ultimately the defense has to step up. They got Carlos Dunlap this week and Jamal Adams should be back. So they just got to piece it all together, win the games that you're supposed to win, and this is a game they should win.
I'm nervous for Seattle, fellas. So a number of things. On the smaller piece of the nervousness is their running back room is just a mash unit. Their top 3 running backs haven't practiced all week. They're going to start a rookie named DJ Dallas out of Miami. He has 2 carries in his career. Now, I like DJ because his name is actually spelled out DJ, D-E-E-J-A-Y. I think that's an underrated thing. Not initials, spell out the initials. But I don't know if that speaks his ability to be able to run on San Francisco. Here's the other reason I'm nervous for Seattle. They were really impressive in a dominant Week 1 win. I think over Atlanta. Since then, let's think about what their games have looked like. New England, a yard away from losing. Dallas, they have to convert a 4th and 3 or they lose. Miami, it's a 2-point game with 6 minutes left before Seattle puts it away. Minnesota, they should have lost that game. I'm still upset that I lost that bet, Minnesota the money line, maybe my best bet of the year that didn't win. And then last week, they did lose. That's 5 games in a row, Brandon, that your Super Bowl team, Seattle, has been on the brink. Now, the reason that you aren't that concerned, it's like, well, they have the best on-the-brink player in the league in Russell Wilson. But nobody can roll those dice every single week and not crap out. They crapped out last week. They're only 3-point favorites at home against the Niners this week, which concerns me a bit because it feels like Vegas is begging you to bet on Seattle. I think the Niners win this football game, Brandon.
Yeah, no, look, here's the deal. The Cam Newton and the Patriots, they were playing good football before COVID hit that locker room. Fitzpatrick, your team, you picked the Miami Dolphins to make it to the playoffs this year. So
that's true.
So let's not talk about the Miami Dolphins as if there's some pushover.
No, they're not a bad team.
I like that matchup. Yeah, and then also you can look at this, the way these games are set up. Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys. Dak was throwing it for 450 yards a game before he got injured. So those were interesting matchups. Now, I don't think they need this game to prove that they're a Super Bowl caliber team. I think they need this game just to stay on track to the Super Bowl. Now, look, on the defensive side, I think they're a few weeks away from being a good enough defense that give Russell more chances, to give that offense a couple more opportunities to do what they do best, and that's to light up the scoreboard. They got Damian Snack Harrison's coming back, 2-time big-time teammate, played with him with the Jets and the Giants. This dude can do it both in the run defense and also getting after the quarterback. You got Jamal Adams coming back from a growing, and now you got Carlos Dunlap, where they absolutely need him to put pressure on the quarterback. So I do think they're a few weeks away from that defense being good enough. Offensively, that was an asterisk. That was just a blimp on this stat sheet. Russell Wilson throwing for 3 picks. Like, that's just not going to happen again. Russell Wilson, this offense is prolific. They're awesome. I think they get the job done. They need to just settle down and just do what they do best. The standard there in Seattle, and it's always been that way since Pete Carroll got there, Wilds, is let's go win a Super Bowl. That's it. Give me your best stuff every single day. Practice, game time, in a meeting room. That is the standard. Yep. That is the energy.
So I think your points about the defensive additions are massive, but I just want to elaborate on one small point you made before I kick it to Wilds, which is the difference between being a Super Bowl contender, which I think Seattle is, and being on track for the Super Bowl. We're now through half the NFL season, and I think we can say this. The NFC is deeper than the AFC, but the AFC is top heavier. I think the 3 best teams in football are all in the AFC. Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. But the next 7 might be in the NFC, which is why, Wilds, with a win, Seattle would be the 1 seed in the conference, and with a loss, they could wake up Monday morning on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. So because the NFC is so log-jammed at the top with teams with 4 or 5 wins, every week feels like a near must-win for any of the real contenders, Wilds.
Totally agree. I think we might be seeing the 49ers shake off their Super Bowl hangover. We're just 3 weeks away from Jimmy G being pulled from the game, and Shanahan's like, he's hurt. And they're like, is he hurt or is he in danger of losing his job? Then he bounced back against the Rams. He had 3 TDs. Then he had a solid game against the Patriots. And what's the way to beat a hangover once it's about 4 o'clock? You got to eat. And guess where you're headed? The Seattle defensive buffet. You can have whatever you want. They're giving up 360 yards. So Jimmy G, you can go up to the buffet and be like, I'm a little bit hungover. Go up there with 5 plates and bring them back to Kyle Shanahan. Look at this, I'm feeling good. We could come out on the other side of this being like, wow, 49ers way better than we thought. I don't know why we wrote them off. They're in the Super Bowl.
The buffet. I love it.
Mike, what do you,
Mike, at the end of the day,
Mike, where do you
He's got a point, Michael Vick.
Jimmy G has been balling. I got to give him that. I take no credit away. I like him as a quarterback. I like him in the San Francisco 49ers uniform. They were my team growing up, I might add. So I do root for him in a sense. But it's very easy to play, when you're playing from behind. They got behind, in the win-loss column, and then they had to fight their way back for Seattle. Now it's pressure's on every week to win. And now you got the Seattle, you got the San Francisco 49ers coming into town. And it's going to be fairly easy, I would say, for the 49ers to come in and function. It's going to be harder for the Seattle Seahawks. So this is a critical matchup this week, and the best team is going to win.
Yep. All right, let us move on. Play a little drawing a blank now. It is finally Tua time in Miami. The rookie quarterback getting set to make his first NFL start. His Dolphins had the bye week to get him ready to go. Won't be easy. He'll face a tough Rams team with Aaron Donald as hungry as ever to keep the theme going. So let me ask you, Mike, Tua's first career start Sunday versus the Rams will be blank.
Successful. I'm excited to see this guy. From one lefty to another. I like everything about his game. I like his accuracy. I love his consistency when he was in college. I think he's a winner. And his game face, the eyes of a quarterback says it all. This guy, no smiles, all about business. He's going to be one of the best and brightest stars in the NFL over the next couple of years. It starts on Sunday.
Love it. Love it.
All right, we've got to talk a little Browns. Is it possible Baker will be better Sunday without Odell? We'll tell you next. First things first. The other guy I feel really good about this weekend, Baker Mayfield. Let's talk some Browns. This team coming off a tremendous comeback win Sunday, albeit over the 1-win Bengals. This weekend they begin life without Odell after his season-ending ACL tear, and so now all eyes are on Baker as he continues to try to lead this team to the postseason. Browns and Raiders, it's Sunday, it's 1 o'clock, it's on Fox. So Mike, how do you expect the Browns to look Sunday in their first game without Odell?
Well, I expect them to look the same as they did as they finished the game last weekend. For the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield, he's going to be more comfortable in ball distribution and spreading the ball around now. Because when you got a guy like Odell Beckham, you almost feel that it's a necessity to get him the ball. And, you got a number one guy, you paying him top dollar, and you just want him to be happy. So the respect level is there. I played some of my best games when I didn't have a number one, especially early on in my career. Not to say that I didn't need it. As I got older, I learned how to use a number one like Deshaun Jackson and when to get him the ball in certain spots and when it's time to target him. So, it won't be the pressure of having to find Odell and get Odell the ball. For Baker Mayfield, he'll be able to just play within the framework of the offense. And sometimes, that's just how you get the best out of the offense and out of yourself when you take that little bit of added pressure. So it could be easier for the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield, but they're certainly going to miss Odell in his presence. I don't think it was that hard, or it shouldn't be that hard to get a guy the ball when you have a sensational talent. But, that's what the Cleveland Browns is dealing with and moving forward. We'll see if it's easier and if this defines the Cleveland Browns offense.
Mike, I'm so glad that you said it. Coming from a quarterback's mouth, it means everything. People don't understand the dynamic between the quarterback, the play caller, and a number one wide receiver. It put pressure on everyone on the offensive side of the ball, even the wide receivers who we haven't talked about. When you're a guy and you're paid at the top in the NFL, you've proven it, and you ask for the ball, or everybody wants to get you the ball, you start looking at, well, what about me? I'm here. I made it through the draft. I also produce. So I think this is going to help this offense. I think it's going to help Baker Mayfield, and I think it will be better for them. Now, to answer your question, Jenna, I don't know, right? Because it's your commitment to how you win defines your identity. The first 4 wins that they had, their identity was running the football. We knew that. Last week, it was about throwing the ball. Now, we know that you can win so many different ways in the National Football League. But for me, I want to see who they are. I want to see if they're going to go back to committing to the run game, or if they're going to look at this and say, you know what, we believe in Baker Mayfield to throw it 30, 35, 40 times a game. So I can't answer that. I want to see them commit to who they believe they are, and then that will dictate, how we view this team moving forward.
Wilds, I'm nervous for the Browns this weekend. And it's not just because Odell's not going to be there. Because the Raiders are sneaky way better than people are giving them credit for. Their wins are excellent wins. They beat the Saints. They beat the Chiefs. The game where they just got blown out against Tampa was a 4-point game with 8 minutes left before everything went wrong for the Raiders, and Brady, to his credit, played great late. I have to be nice to Tom Brady because Brandon informed me a few minutes ago, evidently Tom Brady's got a really hard life full of criticism and haters. I just was totally unaware. I thought he'd lived a charmed existence. And if you look at the Raiders' schedule so far this year, the worst team they've played is the Panthers. And the Panthers are not a bad football team. They played the Saints, the Patriots when the Patriots were playing well, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bucks, and they're treading water. And so I think we look at the Raiders and okay, a good team should beat them. Well, a couple really good teams, the Saints and Chiefs, have lost to them. In addition to that, Wilds, I think the lack of Odell is going to hurt the Browns' running game. I think whether Odell was having all-pro numbers or not, when you watched the games, more often than not, he was still demanding the coverage and the respect of an all-pro receiver, and that was making things easier for Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb when Nick Chubb was healthy, and Nick Chubb obviously is not playing this week. It's right before a bye week for the Browns. They're coming off a great win. There's just a lot of indicators to where you worry about a bit of a letdown. Meanwhile, the Raiders feel like, man, we played really good football for 3.5 quarters last week. We blew it at the end of the first half, allowing a deep bomb to Scotty Miller. And then in the fourth quarter, we let go of the rope. For all those reasons, this has the makings of what I think would be considered an upset by a lot of people, but not that big of an upset in my eyes, Wilds.
Okay, so about Odell's future, Mike, I got a question for you because I thought it was very interesting. And there's 2 straight lines we can make about Odell's future, right? If the Browns play well, we don't need Odell. And if the Browns play poorly, we need Odell. But the third option is it an indictment on Baker that he can't use Odell? When you're saying, I had better games if I didn't have the pressure of the number 1, but then I got better and could use Deshaun Jackson. Well, the Browns are looking at it like they got to figure out Odell's future. They're also got to figure out Baker's future. And I don't know if I'm willing to sign up for more Baker if I've got a weapon like Odell and my star quarterback can't use him.
No, this is the easy question, Wiles. I think it's time for Odell to move on. As ironic as this situation is, and to answer your question, they'll get a glimpse of what life without Odell is. And I think Odell will sit back and say, hey, I gave it a shot. I gave it a chance. I believed in them. They believed in me. It just didn't work out. This is a great opportunity for them to mutually part ways. No bad blood. Odell can go and find him a home. Baker can try to continue to make Cleveland his home. He's on a short leash, and we'll see what comes out of it. But I think to answer your question, it's over for both parties.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump in here too. As the resident wide receiver, to me, it's not on Baker. It's on the offensive coordinator. It's on Stefanski, head coach, play caller. When you look at this, he hasn't. And I said this week 2, week 3 when we saw Odell on the sideline, being emotional and we saw the antics. I was the same guy early on in my career, so I don't want to call out him and not call out myself. But I say all that to say this. The play caller has to do a good job getting your guy the ball early. When you have a player like Odell, yes. And I'll go back to it, a bubble screen, quick screen, jailbreak screen, one-step slant, quick game, hitch. Like just simple stuff. You hitch route converts to a go route. Now you got the back shoulder. Throw it up. It doesn't have to be a perfect pass. Throw it up, back shoulder. Put it in the area where he can make the play and he's also protected. That's all this guy's asking for. That's all he needs. So it starts there. And then also it starts with Odell. As a wide receiver, when you know you're emotional, and I'm speaking to all the high school wide receivers out there, college wide receivers, even the pros that watch the show, listen. You have to understand how your emotions and how your approach to the quarterback and the play caller affects them and the team. You have to be able to communicate effectively. You have to go to them and not with the emotions so they don't feel the pressure. We have to get this guy the ball because if we don't, he's going to shut down. He'll go in the shell or he may get emotional and disrupt what we're doing. So they drop back and they start throwing it to you and feeding it to you. And now that's when we're seeing 2-3 picks. And whilst that's why this is a big moment for Baker and the Cleveland Browns without Odell, because now people are going to be able to call the game and Baker's going to be able to drop back and run the offense freely.
Right. All right, Browns in action against the Raiders on Sunday. Speaking of old Raiders here, Nick had a take yesterday on Bo Jackson that we have to revisit. Take a listen to this soundbite.
This is my most polarizing sports opinion. Bo Jackson, wildly overrated. Bo Jackson, an amazing all-time video game football player. His actual career, pretty good.
I mean, it's the worst
thing. Michael Vick, do you agree or disagree that Bo Jackson was overrated?
Absolutely not. And Nick, one more take. Look, if you was talking about Roger Craig or Joe Morris or Otis Anderson for some of the old heads out there who might know those running backs. Yeah. I will understand. We're talking about Bo Jackson. Nick, I like you on TV. I love you. I think you're smart. I think you look apart. But one more take like that, and we're going to send you on a furlough, and you're going to be selling steaks for a month. You're going to go back. I'm going to be think about it as the world bash you, and then we'll bring you back and slowly bring you back.
Well, Mike, let's ask him why. Sometimes you got to know why. Can you give us the why behind this take, please?
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking. So I've had 24 hours to think about this take, and I've decided, should I walk it back? And my response is, I'm tripling down. Can we show a blind reveal, please? For folks who said I'm hating on Bo Jackson, one of these people is Bo Jackson. The other person on here, by the way, can't say I hate on him. I inducted him into his hometown Hall of Fame. One of my favorite players ever. Show me that. So who we're looking at here. It's Bo Jackson and all-time Chief great Jamal Charles. The problem is that's Bo's entire career and 2 Jamal Charles seasons. I don't hear Jamal Charles out here saying, I'd run for 350 yards a game. I don't hear folks saying he should be in the Hall of Fame. He's the greatest player of all time. Listen, Bo had a nice run. And when he was a Royal and he ran up the wall against Seattle, that was great. And he broke the bat over his head, and he was a great video game player. But at this point, the legend has outstripped the production. There is, by the way, Mike Vick, if I want to quadruple down on the take, there is, by the way, a musical corollary to this. It's Biggie Smalls.
No, don't do
But I dare not touch that third rail. I'm not going to go there. The Overton window's going to slam shut on my head. But so listen, really good. It's a really good player with a really good career. Okay. But it's gone too far. What, Wilds?
It's gone too far.
Wilds, what?
Yeah. No, I'm not going to comment on it. It doesn't deserve.
Mike Vick's sending me back to selling steaks.
We're going to let you live on this one. We're going to let you live on this one. But
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it,
just
Mike.
barely. All right, guys, we got a quarterback matchup Sunday, wrapped in a divisional matchup, wrapped in our lead story. It's like pigs in a blanket. So delicious. Ben versus Lamar. It's next. Thank you, Michael Vick.
$1,000 says Jenna's never had pigs in a blanket.
From the awesome WWE Thunderdome, Roman Reigns, his cousin Jey Uso, and the consequences from their punishing Hell in a Cell match. It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, right here on Fox.
All right, time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks Built to Serve. We got to start with the 5-1 Ravens hosting the 6-0 Steelers to get this segment going. Surprisingly, the first head-to-head matchup between Big Ben and Lamar Jackson. What's on the line? Oh, how about first place in the crowded AFC North? Brandon Marshall, we hand the reins over to you. Take us through the keys to the game. How do the Ravens take down the league's last undefeated team?
All right, let's jump right in. We got 3 keys to victory for the Ravens. Number 1, Lamar Jackson must complete 75% of his passes. Why? Because we know the Pittsburgh Steelers front 7 is going to eliminate the run game. That's what the Ravens do best, but they're not going to be able to do it. Look what they did against the Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry. They took him out of the game. All right, so Lamar Jackson, you got to get it done. Last year, you threw 3 interceptions and you struggled. So this year, we need you to really get it going. This is the game to do it if you want the win. Key to victory number 2. All right. So this is the wide receivers. I'm putting it on you guys. We need you guys to have 100 yards in yak, 100 yards after the catch, because you're not going to be able to go down the field. The Pittsburgh Steelers secondary do a great job of eliminating the big play. So the screens, the quick game, getting the ball out fast, you guys got to be able to break that tackle and run for 15, run for 20. You guys got to get it done. Hollywood, let's go. And the third key, defense. Confuse Big Ben. Don't confuse yourself. Like, this defense thrives in chaos. This defense is really good at creating just awesome matchups in the secondary, but they confuse themselves at times, and it comes back to bite them in the butt. So confuse Big Ben and not yourself so you can have a chance to win this game. That's the keys right there,
Brandon,
Jenna, Nick.
I think those are all great keys. I think you didn't leave one out because this isn't something someone can do. But I think the biggest factor, rather than key, is how rested these two teams are coming into this matchup. You have Pittsburgh that just played a brutal game against Tennessee. Tennessee making a furious comeback late. And even though they did hold Derrick Henry in check, that's not pleasant. It's like, winning a 12-round decision boxing match. You won, but you're feeling that for quite some time. Baltimore, on the other hand, just had a week off. And by the way, if I'm Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin, I'm a little irritated. I'm like, you guys know this is an old school divisional rivalry. We didn't get to do it last year because Big Ben's hurt. And they get a bye week before our first matchup. And our next matchup's on a Thursday night, so neither of us are going to be rested. But that's neither here nor there. The other part of this game that I find so interesting is I'm going to describe one of these teams. Tell me who I'm describing. Top 3 defense. Top 3 special teams. Above average but not great offense. Top 5 head coach. The answer is both. These teams are oddly very similar to each other. So because the Ravens are more rested and because Wilds, I think the Ravens have flown under the radar a bit. I think the Ravens, they got beat by the Chiefs on national television and people tuned them out. The problem is every other game they've played except that game, not only have they won, they have held 3-score fourth-quarter leads in every game of the season, aside from the Chiefs game. The Eagles came back to make it close. Everyone else got beat by double digits. So I think the Ravens are slightly undervalued. I think the Steelers showed a little shakiness in the second half against Tennessee last week. I think it's going to take them time to figure out replacing Devin Bush, and I think they're a little beat up. For all those reasons, I think the Ravens tie up the AFC North this weekend, and they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. I'm going to go the other way. I think it's going to be an emotionally devastating loss for the Ravens. Here's why. We know outside of the Browns game, Lamar hasn't been able to move the ball through the air. 204, 97, 193, 180, 186. We're in Sam Darnold territory. And I think you'd be like, well, they run the ball. Not against the Steelers, you're not going to run the ball. And the Steelers are going to blitz the heck out of you and probably get a few sacks too. So I think they come out on the other side of this like a rich family on vacation, and they're like, oh, and they're talking to the other rich families, like, oh, how'd you get here? And they're like, you know what? We flew first class. How did you get here? Like, well, we flew on a private jet, and there's a few private jet teams. The Chiefs are going to be a private jet team, and the Steelers are going to be a private jets team, and the Ravens are going to be like, oh, we're really good. Like, yeah, you know what? You are, but you're not flying a private jet. You're just a first class team. It's very good, don't get me wrong, but we're on a private jet, and that's the Steelers and the Chiefs are going to take 2 L's.
Ironically enough, the actual team with jet in the name, the Jets, are a hitchhiking team. How'd you get here? We hitchhiked and we rode a boat. Sorry, Jenna, if I stole your joke. Sorry if I
the only thing I said the whole segment.
Nobody stole your joke. Leave the Jets alone.
I've got a question.
Stop it.
Brandon, I got a question for you. I think one of the reasons people aren't as high on the Ravens right now is Lamar. The defending league MVP is worse in every major passing category than he was last year. Wiles just alluded to it. He's barely cracked 200 yards even one time post week 1. And if you dive into the numbers further, what you see is in between the hashes, in between the numbers, he's throwing the ball really well. But to the sidelines, it's been a disaster. What do you make of how Lamar's played and that discrepancy between his success throwing between the numbers and his success throwing to the outside?
It's hard to do this because I've been in these locker rooms for a very long time, and I know that it takes everyone. But I'm going to tell you the issue. And it's hard to do this because it's not just one person. It's never that person. But I truly believe this in this situation. It's Greg Roman's fault. Absolutely Greg Roman's fault. When you break down this offense, there's no identity. What you see in the running game, you have pistol, you have misdirection, you have power O run game. 2 different identities. They're spread, they're quick game, they're play action. Who are you? So if I'm a quarterback in this situation, yes, it's great when we're running the ball well and we have play action set up and guys are wide open down the field. That's easy. But when you're trailing against the Kansas City Chiefs and you need to come back and win a game and you got to spread and you got to throw the ball around, you have no identity there.
Right.
That's not what you do best. You haven't really put your stake in the ground. So for me, this falls 100% on Greg Roman. Now, they've done a great job at this point, and I'm not saying that he's a terrible coach for it because he's actually an excellent coach. But if you want this team to go to the next level and make that run year after year, you have to develop this quarterback, but it starts with the identity.
Good. All right, well, the other game we're anxious to watch this weekend, Patriots and Bills. New England heading up to Buffalo for a divisional battle. I can't believe I'm saying this, but a loss on Sunday, and the Patriots, who've done just about everything right over the last 20 years, would fall to 2-5. They need a big game out of Cam Newton. He's got 0 touchdowns and 5 picks in his last 2 starts, and now he's going to be without his top receiver, Julian Edelman, sidelined after a... Here's Cam Newton, Hall of Famer. Here's Cam Newton on what's on the line on Sunday.
Losing is not acceptable in this locker room, in this county, in this state, in this area, in this region. So, Cameron Newton, you need to pick your expletive up. That's what I've learned.
In the country, also on the continent, in the galaxy, far, far away. That is the New England Patriot way. We have talked about it since we started this show. So, Brandon, is Cam playing for his job on Sunday?
No, don't start with me. I'm not going to give this guy, well, hold on, let me see. This guy right here, I'm not going to give this guy a break. Wow, this is your team. You tell us. You tell us.
Sure. Look, Cam is not playing for his job because we're going to win. And the reason we're going to win is because it's going to be a brutally rainy and windy day. So we can get back to basics and run the ball. Hate to break it to everybody, just because we didn't run the ball well against the 49ers, we are the 4th best running team in the league. We run better than the Titans, but you won't show those videos. All you'll want to show is Derrick Henry, stiff arm, and Josh Norman. We run better than the Titans. Titans are averaging 142, the Patriots average 155. So because it's going to be so rainy, we're not going to have to air the ball out. Cam can get a bounce back game. And also, Nick, it's going to be a very wet game. Once we win this game, it will also be wet of all the tears rolling down the faces of the rest of the NFL when they realize the Patriots are far from dead and we're going to end up hosting a home playoff game.
I think the Patriots are going to win. I think the Patriots are going to win, and I still do believe with you they're going to win the division. But, Brandon, the question is Cam playing for his job? And I know we don't have much time left here, but Wild said something very interesting. If you believe he's playing for his job, I don't. But does that also mean he's playing for his career? If he gets benched this year by the Patriots, then is that just a wrap for Cam?
I wish we had more time. When you go into a new situation, Jenna, and you're in a new environment, and you're coming off of being injured, and you didn't play well, and you don't play well, you could potentially be cut, or you could potentially not have another year. So, yes.
On the way out.
That's a great point.
A lot on the line.
Which is why they're going to win.
All right,
Cam
that's it
will play
for
well,
us.
they're going to win.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Back here.